Hi everybody, this is the Website Boy from the websiteboy.com. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about control structures. Now, we talked a little bit about the if statement on the last couple of tutorials there. And sometimes the code with the if statements can get a little messy, especially if you have a lot of conditions that you need to get the values from, that you need to compare it with, right? So for example, let's say you have many lines of if statements comparing multiple conditions there, or just one single value, right? So we have a whole bunch of 100, or let's say 300 lines of code or if statement. That could get really messy. It could be, it's too much, especially if you're just looking for a value here. um Not here, I'm sorry, a value here. Let's say you have a variable there and you're trying to find if it's equal to, I don't know, number one, and then you got the same variable down here. I'm writing this whole thing wrong, man. I don't know, my mind has that dyslexia, so I don't know what I have. But the next, let's say we want to compare the same variable with number two. Imagine we have to write, many lines of code just to compare the same variable against different values, right? So I mean, the C language has something a lot better, and many programming languages do, but the C language has it. So we are good with that. It's called the switch statement. All right. And the switch statement, the only thing with the switch statement is that it only handles a single value, not a comparison like the if statement. All right. And this value can be a mathematical equation, but the result of that equation must be a single value specified by the switch, and then is compared to the value in the case statements. All right. And let me show you this. I just wanted to explain to you that little bit of um, code, a little bit of that switch statement, so that way you have an idea. Now we're going to write the switch. This is the syntax. All right. So this is the syntax. Now don't get this wrong. Don't confuse yourself. This is not going to take a comparison condition here. We're not going to test anything here. We are going to take a single value. It could be a variable, right? And then we are going to create different cases, and these are going to be our comparison. All right. And this is the syntax, and I explain to you what these keywords really mean. All right. All right. So this is a switch statement keyword, and it's better, sometimes it's good to actually create a little space there if you just want to make things clear, but it really doesn't matter. So we make a switch statement, and we use a single value here, and we say, listen, I want to check variable to find out if variable is equal to all these values, and I provide a list of values for the variable to test against. So I want to test to see if variable is equal to 1, to the case number 1 right here, to case that has a value of 1. If it is true, then the code below is going to execute just like the if statement. If the condition is true, it's going to execute the code. But then once it finishes executing the code, then it breaks out of the case. It doesn't keep going, it just breaks out of it. It's done with it. All right. So after each case, we have to break out, unless we want to continue checking other things, and we don't want to do that. This is the default syntax of it, and this is the default that you should follow all the time. So you can have multiple cases, and you can test against different values. So each time, if this is false, if the variable is not equal to this value here, if it's not true, then it's gonna skip and go to the next case until it finds the one that is true. All right. So keep that in mind, and keep in mind that it only takes one single value. All right. So, and it's then compare by this statement right here, by the values of this statement. Remember that. But it have to be true for this code to work below. So let's do something real quick and show you exactly how this works. This is gonna be awesome. All right. So let's create something called, let's just first create an integer variable. Let's create a function that's gonna print as the user for something. because we want to ask the user to enter some type of number. Enter this, no, any of these numbers, and then we're going to provide 1, 2, and 3. Well, 4, whatever. That really doesn't matter. Then we are going to be using something called the scanf, and I think I already did one of those in the last tutorial. And this is just gonna provide a space on your terminal command prompt or whatever application we are, developing. It's gonna provide a space where the user can input something, right? And then we are gonna take that value and put it on a variable. All right, so let's put a placeholder, because we need to put a placeholder when we're using these variables, and the placeholder is going to be a percent. We need to put the percent, and if this is going to be an integer here, actually, let's just do it differently so that way you can see how it's done. Let's do a character. Let's declare, put the type as a character for this. So we need to provide like a string, a single character back. So that's why we have quotations around it. So we are good with the numbers here because these are single characters. All right, they're not even numbers right now. Even though they look like numbers, they're not, because they are enclosed by apostrophes. Remember that. All right, so we need to provide the percent right here, and because it's a character, the variable that we're gonna get is a character. We need to provide the C, percent C for characters. And if you don't know this, go back to the placeholder tutorial and find out how it's done, because I provided a list there so you can see it. So I'm gonna put a comma here, and I'm gonna put a ampersand and the variable. And if you don't know what the ampersand, really briefly, the ampersand is, we need to put the ampersand every time we're using scanf. All right, just keep that in mind. If you don't know what it is, this is what it is. Right now, just put the ampersand in front of it. That way, the scan function can actually point this value here that we're getting to this variable. Later on, I will probably get into more about explaining what the ampersand is and how we can use it to do other things. But right now, just know that we need to put an ampersand there and in front of that variable. All right. So now that we're getting the user's input in this variable pointed here to the x, then we need to do something with it, right? So we need to put the variable in the switch statement, because we want to compare it to these values in each of these statements, on these case statements, right? And then here, which I almost forgot to tell you, we have another set of keyword, that actually not a set of keywords, just one last keyword called default. And this is just in case everything there is false. All right, we're going to execute the default code right here, and we are going to print something out. We're going to say none of your conditions are true. Unfortunately. All right, and I'm gonna use a copy and paste right here, and then we are gonna go to the next right here. I'm gonna put another one and break right here. Just make tidy there. All right, so we should be good to go, but I'm going to write something here. I'm gonna write number 1 so that way we know where we are. I'm gonna write number 2 and number 3, that way you know exactly which statement is code is executing. All right, so now I save it. I think we are good to go. No mistakes. If we have a mistake, don't worry, we can debug it and find out. So I don't think about it much before I execute something, and then I just like to look at the logs here. So let's go ahead and build and run. We got the terminal right here. It's telling me enter any of these numbers. All right, let me just, actually we don't have number 3. I thought I put number 3 here where I put number 4. That's fine. Let's put number 2. And then when we put number 2, we get display back number 2. That means this code right here, this line of code, is executing. You saw it right there. All right, so let's build and run again. And I did that because I didn't find these bots. Let's just exit out of there. All right, so it's telling me, hey, write these numbers. I'm gonna write 4, and I don't have any 4 cases here. 4 case with a value of 4, so it's gonna go to where none of your conditions are true. It's gonna go to the default because none of these are true, and it's gonna go and execute the last one, which is the default. All right. So now one thing to keep in mind is that I'm actually declaring this variable type right here as a character, and it just takes one single character. Remember that character is not a string thing, it's just one character. So we're typing one character there, we're not typing a whole bunch of strings. So don't think that you're gonna just go ahead and type a whole bunch of strings and he's gonna find it. We need to use something else, and I'll show you later on what it is. But for now, know that this takes a single value here and compares it to the different cases. All right, and if none of these cases are true, then it's gonna execute a default. So anyways, thank you for watching this tutorial. If this was able to help you out and you got some type of value out of it, please don't forget to like the video and favorite, if that's not too much to ask. Anyway, take care, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.